Hey everyone, Mr. Regan here. And up to now, you've done a lot as a paleontologist to explore how scientists use evolutionary trees to show relationships between descent species and common ancestors. You've looked at how scientists understand what fossils are what age, looking at our fossil records. And today we're going to take all of that knowledge and dive into our sim to do a scavenger hunt where your job is going to be to find the descent species using some shared structures and analyzing some of the evolutionary trees we have in our sim. So, up to this point, you've looked at very simple evolutionary trees, similar to the one with our whales and humans, looking at how our yellow lines show that connection and relationship between our common ancestor, like our prehistoric shrew here, with our whales and humans. And this tree has done a great job of showing us how these shared structures show up later in these descendant species. But these shared structures end up being the only structure shared with the common ancestor and descent species, with each descent species having new traits over time. So, for example, for the blue whale, it's the tail flukes for them to swim. And for us as humans, it's our ability to walk upright. Now, this one very simple evolutionary tree was developed because scientists were able to find that the prehistoric shrew was lower in the records, well, whereas the whales and humans were higher in the records, enabling us to then look at the shared structures and know, okay, this is an older species found in the fossil record with all of these shared structures. These are younger species in the fossil record with very similar shared structures. They must be related through this common ancestor. And this ability to analyze evolutionary trees and know that age shows up in our sim. So in our sim, you're going to be, we're going to be, or sorry, in the next activity, you're going to be hunting for different species. So we're going to break down how to identify those descent species and common ancestors in our sim and how to find the shared structures you use to discover their relationship with one another. So let's take a look at how we'll do this. When you dive into the next task, you're going to be going into our sim scavenger hunt forum to look for some descent species based on their shared structures. Your job is to get a score of 4 out of 22. Okay. That is the best score that someone could get. And you'll see why here in a bit. But when you get into the forum, you're going to be selecting a shared structure that you're going to use to hunt for descent species. So, for example, you're going to be clicking on any of these and deciding which ones you're going to use to find a set of descent species. So is it tissues and nervous cells, jaws, so on and so forth. When you pick one, you're then going to hit next. And your job is going to be to go into the sim, into tree view, use the orange eyes to find shared structures, follow those branches to find the descent species, and then record what you find. So when you dive into our sim here, you'll go into our free explore. From there, you'll go into our tree view. And you'll notice that we have all of our different pages of our evolutionary tree here on the left side, all broken down with a set of branches. So, for example, I could click on vertebrates. It'll take me to that part of the map. Now, if you notice, all of our different evolutionary trees has a set of branches connected by these eyes. The eyes are your shared structures. So, for example, if I click on this eye, it says neck 375 million years ago. And what this tells me is that every species connected below this eye, so going to the right, is a descent species that has that shared structure. So, for example, this species, though we don't know what it is, would have a neck. This one would have a neck, and so on. When we get down here, we know that birds, like ostriches, have necks, and so do crocodiles. The ability for them to bend, twist, and move their head so they can see. Now, with that shared structure, we then have more shared structures below them. And what this tells us is any species to the right of it has this shared structure, but to the left of it doesn't. So, for example, eggs that can develop on land, birds lay their eggs on land, crocodiles lay their eggs on land. So, anything to the right of this eye that's connected, so you'll see birds and crocodiles along with mammals, have eggs that can develop on land. But this species just above it to the left does not. It does not have that. So this would not be a descent species that has this shared structure. Now, if we click on this one, limbs with digits, you'll see that this one would have limbs with digits along with everything below it. So along with our ostriches and crocodiles, but those to the left does not. So your job is going to be to look for your shared structure that you picked in your Google form. So for me, it was loss of external hind limbs. So I'm going to explore all the eyes to find the loss of external limbs and then find where in the map it's found. So which of our different pages it's found on, and what are two examples of descent species that share that structure with a common ancestor. So that's how we go about identifying descent species and common ancestors. That's how we find our shared structures for our scavenger hunt. Go ahead and put your X in the survey. If you put your X in yellow, red, reach out. Otherwise, good luck.